Hey everybody, Fallout here, and today I have another lore video for you. Yeah, you heard right. No need to stick that Q-tip in your ear. Your hearing is just fine. Truth be told, I had a really fun time recapping the story of the origin of the last word in the tale of Shin Malphur, so I wanted to cover something else in the lore that I'm sure a lot of people are wondering about. We are going to talk about this guy, the Drifter. And believe me, there is no shortage of things to talk about. He is a mysterious fellow with a shady history, but also a very big part of the current game. Now, we could get into a lengthy discussion about his various escapades, but today we're going to just talk about one particular voyage that the Drifter went on, his visit to a dark, unknown planet before being the ringleader of the game that we know as Gambit. If you want to read this tale along with me at your own speed, you can hop into your vault and find the following pieces of armor. Each item is a different chapter in this tale. Alright everybody, I hope you enjoy listening to this video. Go grab a mug of something warm to drink, put your feet up, here we go. The Drifter, and this may be a surprise to some of you depending on how much you read the lore, is actually a guardian. Now, I don't know about you, but that came as a surprise to me when I first found out, because the Drifter doesn't actually behave like much of a guardian. He's crude, he's mysterious, and he seems to care more about his own secrets rather than the well-being of others. He's also not very tied to the last city like we all are. He's, well, a drifter by nature. You know, come to think of it, guardian may actually be too strong of a word. A more accurate term for the Drifter might be lightbearer, or better yet, risen. Back when our solar system was first visited by the Traveler, the first generation of people who were resurrected by the power of the Traveler's light, they were referred to as risen, not guardians. Why the distinction? Well, not every risen, it was soon discovered, wanted to do good and protect people the way that the current generation of guardians all do. Risen were often self-centered and obsessed with power and control. Many of them became rogue warlords who took control of and ruled over small individual cities and manors across the planet. There were a lot of great battles that ensued. In time, a group of guardians calling themselves the Iron Lords banded together and waged a war against these warlords. It was light-on-light conflict and things were getting heated. Eventually fed up with all the conflicts that light had caused on Earth, the Drifter, along with several of his best friends, he uses that term pretty lightly, as you'll soon find out. They decided to leave home, and not just the Earth, mind you, our entire solar system. They packed up a ship and just left, traveling literally for centuries across the blackness of space. Eventually, they found a strange planet way outside the system. While observing it, they detected it had a strange energy and realized that somehow this planet had an energy that drained light. In a similar way, the Drifter mentions, to a certain weapon carried by a notoriously bad guardian from back home, a weapon called Thorn. Now, you know, you'd think that when you find a strange unknown planet that literally carries the ability to suppress and drain the thing tied to your very own life force, well, you'd probably get the heck out of Dodge. But oh, not the Drifter. They landed, wanting to investigate further. Their party wound up finding a strange alien monolith, a facility left behind by the inhabitants of that planet who had clearly been long gone. Inside that monolith, they found a creature trapped in some kind of cage of ice. None of them knew exactly what it was, but they eventually came to learn a few things. Mainly that this planet was covered in monoliths, and each of them contained their own captured creature. All of these creatures looked somewhat hive, but yet they weren't. The creatures produced a field that repressed light, much like a darkness zone. They quickly found out that these creatures were the reason that the planet was seemingly emitting a field of light-repelling darkness. And was the Drifter scared? Oh, no. The Drifter is a man of opportunity, Guardians. He and everyone else, they were happy as could be. You see, they wanted to learn more about these creatures that could drain light. They figured they could use them somehow, bring them back to the Earth maybe, weaponize them. So they stayed on the planet. I mean, what could go wrong? In time, the Drifter and his merry group of rogues learned that the strange creatures found in the monoliths were also roaming about out in the wild in fairly large numbers. How did they find out? Well, one night, one of the Drifter's friends had gone to sleep and never woke up. Now I gotta say, if we weren't in the world of Destiny, that would be pretty tragic. But out on this planet with that gang, this was no big deal at all. Remember, all of them happened to be Lightbearers, not the most morally upstanding ones, mind you, but in fact, the Drifter mentions in his recorded memoirs that while they were on this planet, both he and his crew died very frequently. Yeah, not 1 or 2 times, mind you. They all collectively died thousands of times. The planet they were on was so cold, the temperatures were so harsh, the environment so unforgiving that every now and then, one of the members of the party would just fall over dead. Thankfully, it wasn't that big of a deal, because while traveling, they had access to their ghosts, who could simply just revive them, and they would carry on as usual. This time, though, was different. One of them had died in their sleep the night before. Hey, no big deal, just another day on the ice planet, right? But this time, he was not coming back. His ghost tried to resurrect him, but this time, failed. Turns out when you spend so much time in close proximity to those dark creatures roaming around out in the wild, the effect it has on you and your ghost's light becomes far more permanent. The Drifter and his gang were now more motivated than before, not just out of fear for their own lives, but now they knew the power of the creatures that they were dealing with. They didn't fully understand what they were or how they behaved, but to them, the power to drain light was a potential weapon, a weapon they could use for whatever purpose if they managed to get it off that icy planet and back home to Earth. But, and I know this might seem hard to believe, things got worse. Soon, another member of their party died. Same way as before, froze to death in their sleep, and his ghost, too drained of light by the power of the nearby dark creatures, was not able to revive him. And with that, the group began to slowly turn on each other. A few of them began to suspect that foul play was involved. Surely, one of them had to be luring these creatures nearby at night. Why else would they be roaming so close? Soon, the time for words had ended, and one of them drew a gun. Just then, the Drifter spoke out, telling his friend to holster their weapon, and promised the next time any of them drew a gun on him again, he would kill them all without even a second thought. And time went on. Eventually, only 4 of them were left, and their time on the planet in the harsh conditions was beginning to drive them mad. One night, as they began to settle in for the evening, something happened. A sudden change in their being that washed over all of them at once. We happen to know exactly what that something was, because we, the Guardians, were there at the tower when it happened. It was Dominus Gaul invading the last city with the entire might of the Red Legion and capturing the Traveler's light for himself. The events of the Destiny 2 campaign. With the Traveler under attack from the Red Legion, Guardians across the galaxy had begun losing their light. But, of course, the Drifter and his gang were far away in another solar system. None of them knew what was happening on the home front, and with that, they all assumed the worst. It had to have been sabotage. There must have been a traitor among them, someone who was luring these dark creatures closer and closer every night, draining the group of their light for some selfish and unknown purpose. Surely, this was their moment to strike. Not exactly rational or safe thinking on their part, but as the Drifter recalls, after what they had been through, they were all raving psychos by that point. And at that moment, tensions boiled over, and the party drew weapons on one another. And, true to his word, the Drifter drew as well. He wasn't sure how many members of his party had drawn their guns intending to kill, but we do know one thing. The Drifter was the only one who walked out of that situation. When everything was said and done, the Drifter turned back to the dark creature trapped in the prison of ice, and he gave it the finger. Really, I'm not making that part up. In the grimoire, he actually tells his ghost that he gave the creature the finger. And somehow, through methods unknown, the Drifter made it out of there, got off that planet, escaped, despite the fact that their ship had apparently long been rendered useless by the extreme cold. So, how did he get out? You know, he's never mentioned it before. Gunning down your own best friends in a moment of extreme panic probably takes a lot out of you. That certainly isn't the end of the Drifter's mystery, though. In fact, his journey only raises more questions. How did he make it off of that planet made of ice and iron? What exactly were those dark, mysterious creatures locked in frozen captivity? Some people think Taken, but the Drifter learned in time what the Taken look like, and he never confirmed that that is what they were. And how about that giant object the Drifter tows around behind his ship? Could that be a souvenir from this bizarre venture? There's even more to this man than meets the eye. He made it back through space, back to the last city where he now runs a strange game called Gambit. His activity at the tower is being monitored very closely these days. But that, my friends, is a story for another time. Hope you enjoyed this brief tale about the Drifter from the Grimoire Guardians. If you like this video and you want to hear more about the Drifter, go ahead and give this video a like. If there is another character in the lore, another battle, another location, another weapon you would like to hear me talk more about or just learn more about in general, please let me know down in the comment section. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. It's free to do and it helps me out a whole bunch. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.